Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show. And now, here's Jeff Crilley.
Welcome back to the Jeff Crilley Show. This is a show I can certainly relate to, and I would imagine that just about everybody listening to this broadcast now could as well. We're talking about sleepless nights, and my guest is Chris Prince. He has spent many restless nights over the last few years trying to help solve America's sleep problem. Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, thank you, Jeff. It's great to be here.
Now, you and your business partner, John Truitt, started Simple Sleep Services a few years ago. Tell us this story. How did that start?
Yeah, we just celebrated our 5-year anniversary, and so we've been going at it for 5 years. We saw an opportunity to really help a lot of people. The traditional way to treat obstructive sleep apnea, which is what we specialize in, there have been some advancements, and we saw an opportunity to really get that message out to the public and help a lot of people who, we're going around. There's millions of people running around today that have a sleep problem that it's undiagnosed. So we wanted to get the message out. We go direct to the public, and we try to educate.
Now, so how does somebody listening to this right now says, well, I don't get enough sleep, but I don't know if I have sleep apnea. I don't know if I have a disorder. How do you know?
That's a great question. I mean, it's one of those things. A lot of people attribute it to aging. Man, I'm getting older. I don't feel like I used to. I'm just not feeling the same. Oh man, I must be getting older. But a lot of the times it's a sleep problem, and obstructive sleep apnea is the most common one that's out there. And so when we get people in and we get them treated, I mean, it's very common. We have tons of testimonials and tons of stories about people it's changed their lives.
And is it typically snoring is the first signal that you might have a problem?
Yeah, that's one of the things. When someone calls us, when someone's ready, has heard our message, has educated themselves, and is ready to take action because they have a snoring problem, almost all of the time they have at least mild obstructive sleep apnea.
Wow.
Yeah.
And help me understand how that works. When you say sleep apnea, what does that mean?
It's actually the airway becomes obstructed when you're trying to sleep, and what that does is it decreases the oxygen level in the body. And when someone stops breathing, and we have people come in and once they go through the sleep test process and the diagnostic part of the process, I mean they're stopping breathing 30, 40, 50 times an hour.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it's serious. That drops the oxygen level and in the body, and it's like, I mean, with some people who have really severe cases of sleep apnea, it's like climbing Mount Everest every night. The oxygen depletion is incredible, and you can imagine what that does to your health and the rest of your day. My
daughter Sarah wants to jump in on this one because she also confesses that she has some sleep issues.
Well, I have sleep issues, but I'm sitting here and trying to self-diagnose myself as you're telling us what sleep apnea is. Now, I don't believe I have sleep apnea because I'm not snoring at night, or at least I don't think I am. But I do get plenty of sleep, I think, like 8 hours, but I still feel tired. I go through the day just feeling tired, and I try to get extra sleep, but I almost feel more tired when I'm getting that extra sleep on the weekends.
Right. Well, and sleep is a very complicated thing, and it's starting to get the attention that it deserves. I mean, there's something we talk about on our website. It's called the triumvirate of health. It's exercise, nutrition, and sleep. And we didn't come up with that on our own. It's Dr. William Dement at Stanford has been preaching about that for 40 years. But the exercise and nutrition, these are giant industries that have been out there forever, and they're everywhere. And sleep was kind of the forgotten piece of that. And now it's starting to get more and more attention, but it's very important. It's just as important as the other ones. Well, so, I mean, we want to educate people. We want to get people into the process to determine what it is. And just because you don't snore doesn't mean you don't have sleep apnea.
Really? So what are some of the other signs of maybe I do have sleep apnea?
Well, headaches, not feeling rested during the day.
That's what I just don't feel rested.
Acid reflux is one of the things. There's a lot of symptoms. We go through a lot of it on the website. And those are the things that I won't call them benign because they're serious problems if you're waking up every day with a headache. But untreated obstructive sleep apnea leads to some really nasty things.
Well, I know men are guilty of this. I mean, they can break their leg and say, well, I'll just tough it out. Men don't often just say, hey, I need to go see my doctor.
Right.
So take the fear away. When somebody comes to Simple Sleep Services, what's the experience? What happens?
Well, the first thing we want to do is find out what's going on. And as I started with, I mean, there have been some serious advancements in technology, not just in sleep, but in all of medicine. And we have people come in that maybe they knew someone who went through a sleep test years ago, or maybe they did themselves. And the traditional process is going to an overnight lab, getting hooked up with lots of electrodes all over your body, having someone watch you sleep in a foreign place. And that's just not the process. You don't have to do that anymore. What we do is a home sleep test. It's a piece of equipment. You take it home. You sleep in your own bed. And from that, the data is recorded. And then our board-certified sleep docs are able to read that data and make a diagnosis in most cases. If they can't, then there's something more serious. In rare instances, an overnight lab test is still something we do.
Okay, so if the sleep technician detects sleep apnea, what's the solution? What happens next?
Well, the traditional solution is something called a CPAP. You see people going through the airport with them. They always have to check them and take them out in security. It's a machine. You wear a mask at night, and it essentially pneumatically splints the airway. It's blowing air down the airway to keep it open at night, keep it from obstructing and keeping you breathing. It's a great therapy. If someone calls us and says, hey, I have a CPAP, I love it, we tell them, stay on it. Here's the issue is a lot of people don't like it. They don't like sleeping with a mask strapped to their face. So what we specialize in is what's called an oral appliance. It's it's simply a mouthpiece. Pop it in at night. You take it out in the morning, but you wear it while you sleep. And what it does is holds the jaw forward and keeps that tissue from falling back and obstructing the airway. And they're Class 2 medical devices. You're under the care of a doctor, and we have a dentist on staff who fits these. And our doctors have done more of these than anyone in the United States now over 5 years. And it's just a much more non-invasive therapy, and something that people tend to want to use every day.
It seems like it's a lot easier and less. It's maybe easier to sleep with your device.
It is, and it's interesting. The way medicine has evolved in different parts of the world. In many countries, it's the first line of therapy. It's, okay, let's try an oral appliance to see if that fixes your problem before we strap you to a mask and a machine that you have to sleep with every night. In America, that's been backwards. We usually go straight on into the more intrusive therapy of CPAP, and that's starting to change, and I'd like to think we're helping to change that.
Does insurance cover some of this?
Yes, absolutely. It's medical insurance, it's covered by medical insurance.
One of the things that you and I were talking about off the air is if you do have a sleep disorder, it can be not just dangerous, it can be deadly. We hear stories all the time of people falling asleep at the wheel. You and I talked about pilots. We talked about truck drivers. Let's spend a couple minutes talking about the dangers of an undetected sleep disorder.
Yeah, absolutely. And since we talked the other day, I saw a news story just this week. The commuter train accident back in September in New Jersey, they're now attributing that to sleep apnea. Turns out the engineer has been diagnosed with severe obstructive sleep apnea. So, obviously the people like that, airline pilots, train engineers, bus drivers, truck drivers, they're not just putting their health at risk if they're undiagnosed, but the risk of putting many others at risk as well. So, it's very important, and we have our own stories in our business. I mean, we see some really sick people come through our doors. We've had people fall asleep on the way in, driving to our appointment.
Wow.
We routinely have people fall asleep in the waiting room, fall asleep, if we walk out and they're in the chair and we come back in and they're asleep. These are tired people, and it's very difficult to be productive and go through your day if you're feeling that way.
Sure.
So they put the appliance. How long does it take to be cured? Is that an overnight?
Yeah, I mean, it really does start to work overnight. After a few nights for sure, if someone's got that oxygen depletion that I was describing earlier, it takes a few nights to get back to the level where things should be. But I mean, once you're able to breathe through the night and you're not waking yourself up to breathe, it's quick.
That's amazing.
Tell us a before and after story. Who comes to your mind when you think about why you and John built this business? Wow,
there are so many, and we've got some great testimonials on the website. I can't mention names or anything like that due to HIPAA, but there are there have been some huge changes in people's lives, and the response that we get is, I mean, it's intense. When someone thinks that they're just getting older, they don't feel good anymore, and then we're able to show them that, hey, this is sleep apnea, it's treatable, and we're able to treat it, and they go back to feeling 20 years younger.
Wow.
Those responses are incredible.
Speaking of age, what are the age ranges that you see your patients? Do you see children?
We do not. And I could get into the details of why that is, but no.
What about teenagers or?
We like to start at 18. Oral appliance therapy becomes it's okay to do. We like to see people who are 21. You really can't do it while someone is growing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
sense.
The deal. You don't want to permanently change the dentition and that kind of thing. So it's an adult therapy.
Okay, well, unfortunately, we're out of time for this segment. We're going to absolutely have you back, and next time John is in town, we'll have to have him on as well. It's simplesleepservices.com.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris Prince.
Thank you, Jeff.
Coming up next, child obesity is a national epidemic. Can a children's book hold the answer to healthier eating? That's next on The Jeff Crilley Show.
You're listening to The Jeff Crilley Show on Talk Radio 1190.